listening to Sports Talk Radio 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland this morning. I just was kind of trying to get a good feel for what the state of the, Browns fans over there, and they weren't talking Browns, they were talking about the Guardians. And they start bringing up the fact that, okay, the Guardians down 1-0 and how much pressure there is on the Yankees. The Yankees have to win this series, right? The Yankees have spent all this money, and they have to have ROI. They have to have a return on investment. They have to have something to show for all the money that they've spent. I think the Yankees are second in payroll when it comes to the money that they've spent in baseball. We know this. That's not a surprise. I think three of the top spenders in baseball are in the playoffs or are remaining in the playoffs right now. But I'm listening to that, and they're trying to make it sound like, no matter what happens, who cares? The pressure's on the Yankees. There's no pressure on the Guardians whatsoever. But, why do we do this thing where we vilify the teams that do spend money? I think it comes from a little jealousy deep down in us because we all follow teams, the majority of us. We follow teams that don't have the resources or the means or the money to spend. So then we just try to discredit the success of other franchises who do spend money and act like they're wrong for doing it instead of holding our teams accountable for not doing it. Although, to be fair, we do complain about our teams not spending money. I think we do complain about it to a certain extent. But the thing is, to say that the front office for the New York Yankees is losing sleep at night and feeling the pressure of having to win this series, of having to win a World Series. They want to win a World Series. They're super competitive. But can the front office of the Yankees truly look out on that field with all the talent that they have on that roster, with all the money that they've spent on that roster? Is the front office of the Yankees really going to fall asleep at night and say, damn, if only we did more? I don't see that there's any pressure on the front office at all. I think there's pressure on Aaron Boone. I think Aaron Boone has to get this team to the World Series, if not win it. I think that Aaron Judge has to, obviously, and by the way, no one's really criticizing Aaron Judge, but Aaron Judge was so dominant in the regular season and has not been very good in the playoffs, but yet here they still are. That shows you the amount of talent that's on this roster. I think that narrative will start to form. I know that happened with Alex Rodriguez during his Yankees run, where he was so good in the regular season and so bad come the postseason, and then he had that breakout postseason. In fact, it just happened to be the last time the Yankees won a World Series. But I don't think there's any pressure on the front office for the Yankees. Why would there be? What more could the Yankees front office do? Any need that the Yankees need, that they need have, they address it. They spend money on it. Aaron Judge, get it done. Giancarlo Stanton, we got you. Well, you even a lowly investment like we talked about with Weaver. Hey, need a reliever? We got Weaver. We got it taken care of. Anything that the Yankees need, that front office gets. But yet, we're trying to do this thing in Cleveland, in Ohio, or anywhere. Oh, man, the Guardians, they have no pressure. It's all on the – if anything, I think the Guardians have way more pressure to win this series than the New York Yankees, because if the Yankees lose, you can't look at that front office and say, dude, what the hell? You should have got us more. What else can the Yankees get you? I mean, they could always get you more, don't get me wrong. But they've given you enough. The front office for the Guardians, no matter what happens, if the Guardians win it all, my narrative of how bad they've approached this, it's going to get blown up in my face because, hey, they go on to win a World Series. But if the Guardians lose this series, it's as simple as that's a lot more pressure, and it looks way worse on the front office of the Guardians. If you guys want to bail them out and fall for the, man, look at, they overcome the low spending to get to the World Series, they lit their own house on fire and want to take credit for putting it out. That doesn't make any sense to me. You don't get to reap the rewards of being a small market team when you're not even trying to even spend up to league average for small market teams. The Reds are never in bottom five in spending every single year. They may find themselves one season or two seasons here or there where they're in the bottom five, but the Reds try to spend money. Someone asked me the other day, why are you not mad at the Tigers? They were bottom five in spending. They've never, in the last 10 years, they've never gone 3 straight years of being in the bottom 5 in spending. The Tigers, they go a couple years, they assess the roster, they start spending money to fill some holes. The Guardians, they don't fill holes. They don't try to address the roster. They just continue to sit back and not invest into this team. Good for the organization, have a very good farm system. They develop players, more power to them. But as far as who's facing the most pressure to win this series, it's 100% on the Guardians. If the Yankees lose, the front office will not question, could we have done more? They've done their job. They've done their part. It's on Aaron Boone and the rest. The Guardians, if they lose this series, that's the front office that has to sit there and look at themselves in the mirror and say, man, maybe if we just added one more starting pitcher at the deadline? What if we added 1 or 2 more bats at the deadline? What if we didn't just sit on our hands and just act like everything was A-okay? To me, I think there's way more pressure on the Guardians to win this series than the New York Yankees.
I don't necessarily disagree with your sentiment. I think in this season there is more pressure on the Yankees because I think they lose, Juan Soto walks. And if they win, they get Juan Soto for a decade. So I think there is more pressure on the Yankees in this sense, just because he might be the best hitter in baseball for that next decade. So to lock him down with a win over a team that you should beat in every single facet on paper is absolutely massive. And I think because they are such a big favorite, that is where the pressure lies. Really, whenever we're talking about sports, if you're favored by 2.5 games, which I believe was the final line for, or 1.5 games to win by 2 games over the Guardians, you're a pretty big favorite. I don't know how the pressure is necessarily on the underdog, but I think you're definitely right when it comes to the fan bases. I think if I was a Guardians fan, I'd be much more nervous. I think if I was a Yankees fan, obviously it's been a long time since you've been on the top of that mountain, and you expect to be there every single year, so it feels like you're finally back to a competitive level. I'm missing the playoffs last year. It takes a lot to get back up as Yankees fans. They've been down for a while, and now they believe again, and the guys are playing at a high level. So you obviously are going to be anxious because it's not a guarantee to get back every year. But I think if you're a Yankees fan and you lose to the Guardians, you have a level of faith that your front office is going to give you the pieces to continue to get back. And I think if you're a Guardians fan, you don't know that you're ever going to get back. So to be playing in the CS right now and have a chance to move on to the first World Series since 2016, that is certainly nerve-wracking to me if I'm a Guardians fan, because I don't know if I'm ever going to have this chance again.
And you mentioned the Guardians, and I think Mousecop put it in the chat. Jose Ramirez, they signed Jose Ramirez signed a team-friendly deal. He didn't have to sign that contract.
They got him cheaper than the Reds got Votto. And that's a current contract in this decade compared to a decade ago.
Jose Ramirez is a $30 million player at minimum.
He's 40-40.
He's making $20 million. $20 million. I think Nick Castellanos makes more than Jose Ramirez. 7 years, $140 million. That's unbelievable that he wanted to be with Cleveland. And maybe that's a testament to the organization. Fair. Maybe they do things the right way there, and they treat their players with respect, and they enjoy being there. Maybe that's something. Maybe that has something to do with it. But at the end of the day, you want to be the Yankees. You want to be the Steve Cohen Mets. You want to be the Dodgers. You want a $300 million roster. You want that. You want to be a part of it. I'm envious of it. Because you know the Guardians, the Reds, our windows, those windows get cracked. They're never fully open, but they are cracked. And when they are cracked, you have to try to get out as quickly as you can. The Royals were one of the few teams that were able to do it. They capitalized on that short crack in that window, and they were able to escape. Guardians got close. The Reds have sniffed nothing near it. The window was cracked a couple times, and they just stayed inside. Somebody repaired that window real quick. So I think it goes into Major League Baseball as a whole. It's why I don't want to say unfair, because it is. I mean, it is unfair. But at the same time, at some point, I would like some sort of regulation in Major League Baseball to make it so that not every team that has a cheap owner is just eliminated before the season starts, like our guy said a couple years ago. Because that is the case. The Pirates. Do you ever believe the Pirates are going to break through? I don't think so. It's hard for me to realistically say the Reds will break through the cracked window. But this is where I kind of disagree with you, because you say you want to cheer against the Guardians because you don't want that to become a possibility or an expectation that a small market owner can have. You don't want the expectation that we can spend very little, do the bare minimum, and still fight our way in. And then use it as like, look, everybody, look, we just did that. As a small market fan, I have to look at that and say, it is possible for us. And that does work on me. If the Guardians pointed to their team this year and say, look, we made it to an ALCS. The Orioles didn't get there. And the Yankees are there. The Red Sox didn't make the playoffs. But we're here. We're in the ALCS. Some of the biggest franchises in baseball aren't there. We're in the last 4 of the postseason. That's where I say I want to cheer for the Guardians a little bit, because I do like seeing the little guy win. Well, every once in a while you want to cheer for David to beat Goliath.
So, not wrong, because you're right. Like, as a Reds fan, I should be sitting here really pulling for the Guardians because, like, hey, look, man, that could be us next year. We don't have to spend a lot of money. Look at the Guardians. But I compare it to this. March Madness is the biggest sports postseason tournament out there, right? Like, it's the most popular. Every once in a while, you get a mid-major team like Loyola getting to the Final Four a few years ago, right? Like, you get these mid-majors, George Mason back in the day. Every year, I mean, we see these teams, Butler, when they were in the Horizon, getting there. Butler didn't set a blueprint for how to get to the Final Four as a mid-major team. No one said it's not like Coach K watched Butler get to back-to-back Final Fours and even back-to-back national championship games and say, the hell with the 4- and 5-star kids. I'm just going to do what Butler's doing. You know, Butler didn't give hope to everyone around college basketball saying, well, we're doing it wrong by getting 4 and 5 stars. We just need to get the average guys and just really coach them up. No, it was nice for like the Wright States and the Northern Kentuckys and all that of the world to look at a team like Butler and these mid-majors that make it to the Final Four and say that could be us. But hope is not a blueprint. Hope is not a game plan. And hoping that you could do what the Guardians are doing, to me, is not a game plan. You look at the Yankees, you look at it's not a coincidence that every year the teams that are in the AL, NL Championship Series on a year-in, year-out basis are top 10 spenders in baseball. And again, the Reds, I don't expect them to be that every single season. Same thing with the Guardians. But again, the Guardians to be at the bottom of spending every single season, that's just they're just lucky that this is working in their favor right now. Because, like I said, when they lose this series, I'm going to look at it and say, well, damn, maybe if you added a bat, maybe if you added a starting pitcher, maybe 2 starting pitchers, $106 million. That's all they've spent. And and yes, Mouse Cop's right when I said they didn't invest into their roster. They did invest into Ramirez. $20 million's a lot for one player. They even left meat on the bone there. But you've spent $100 million and 20 of it went to one player. You didn't invest into your team. You didn't invest into your team.
That's fair. But I do think that organization knows how to bring up pitchers. They know how to use a pitching staff.
It's annoying.
They know how to bring up prospects. They do everything the right way. The best thing a small market team can do is bring up prospects, develop pitching. They do it better than anybody in baseball. Maybe the Rays. Them and the Rays. And that is a testament to them to where you can rationalize not spending money. Because, Kinner, they've made a World Series, in 2016?
16.
They made a World Series 2016.
Rain delay away from winning it.
That's right. They're in a CS in 2024. The Reds haven't seen any success whatsoever. That's with spending money, no spending money. If you told me there was a way to get to the CS twice in 8 years without spending money, I'd take that way. So, because it has worked. You can't say it hasn't worked because it has.
And the Rays have been to a World Series and a CS as well.
There is something to it. Now, the issue is they haven't won it. The winner of the World Series usually has a $300 million roster or something like that.
It's like the Bengals. They get to a Super Bowl with their QB getting sacked 70 times. It's not like people are like, see, the Bengals prove you don't need an O-line.
Right.
No. If anything, you have an O-line. Split second longer, Jamar Chase right along the sideline, who believes in his quarterback, would have caught it. It would not have been dropped. I
do think the one thing that I'm with you most of the way, even though I do disagree. I understand the take most of the way until you say hope is not a reasonable game plan, because I think that is quite literally the only game plan in sports.
You draft and hope. You sign a player and hope.
That's just hope. That's all you do as a fan is you hope that it works. Because even if you spend $300 million, how many big signings have the Reds made? I mean, obviously it's not top of the market players, but how many big signings have the Reds made that didn't work out? You still have to hope that those guys work, or you hope that the prospects work. It's all a hope, and it's all a risk, and it's just how much risk are you willing to take? Is there less risk in a $300 million payroll? Absolutely. Yep. There's a lot more risk in playing 22 to 25-year-olds and hoping that they can grow and get better every single year. But I also don't think it's reasonable to expect that the Reds are going to spend, so I'm going to continue to hope that at some point a cheap team can win. And if it's not us, it's another cheap team that shows me that hopefully sometime in the near future someone else that will be us can do that.
I want the window to be cracked. I want to see the crack, and I want the Reds to break through it. That's the only way, and seeing the Guardians do it over the Yankees would show me that that's possible, like Jacob just said.
So then they got to play the $300 million Mets or the $300 million Dodgers. $1 billion Dodgers.
Correct. Listen, we're never going to get a rich owner, and that's fine. I've settled with that. But if we have the talent, eventually one day that time is going to come for us where we're going to see that cracked window. I'm hoping the next couple years.
The way small market teams succeed in the MLB is you find a kid in the crowd at a workout in a foreign country, and you pull him in, and he happens to be a 6'6" shortstop that leads the team in WAR. That's how a small market team works. Is you find a lottery ticket named Elly De La Cruz and hit.
Yeah.
The Reds did the hard part. Now you
Great
have
outfielder. Great outfielder.
Now you have to just supplement around him. Fill the holes around Elly. You did the hard part. You got the superstar here. That's probably never going to happen again if you don't re-sign him. We've gotten incredibly lucky that in my lifetime, the Reds have had a superstar the entire time, from Joey Votto to Ellie De La Cruz. That's not an expectation that you can just have as a Reds fan. We've gotten very, very lucky, and we have to capitalize on this window because we didn't capitalize last time.
I'm hoping Terry Francona is the change the Reds needed. He can't be everything. We know that. Managers don't affect the game as much as the players in the field or the front office or ownership. But they can spark something into a clubhouse.
I think into an organization. I think Terry's going to be an organizational, change as far in a hope.
And he's had a lot of success. He's won 2 World Series. He took a small market team like Cleveland to the promised land. Didn't win it, but he took him there. He got him to the mountaintop. This is what I'm hoping happens in the next couple years. You have to take advantage of it, hopefully before the Bally deal crumbles apart. That's what I would because we do got to worry about that at some point, but not right now, not today. We'll see if the Yankees are able to lose to the Guardians, but I don't think so.
They're going to win. Go Yankees. Guardians stink. Last point on this, too. Here's the thing. To make it even worse, look at how good Francisco Lindor is for the Mets. The fact that, he hit that walk-off to send them to the NL Championship Series. Look how dominant he's been so far early on in the NL Championship Series. So I say that because, if you go look at what the Mets are paying him, $34 million a season. You look at the Guardians' payroll, $106 million. If they would have given the contract to Francisco Lindor and you built around Lindor and Ramirez with their great developmental farm system, all this, if they signed him, what that would have done to their payroll? It would have put them at 18th in baseball. That would have put them at $140 million a year at payroll right now, and that would be 18th in Major League Baseball. And you let him just go. It's not like that would have put you, if we have Francisco Lindor and Ramirez, now we're spending in top 10, top 12 in the league, and that's just not a threshold that we could afford to be at. You can't afford to be at 18, or you just don't want to be in that 18 to 17 range. That's the problem I have. They were ranked 16th the year that they went to the World Series, by the way.
I actually characterize that Lindor trade as a great trade for the Guardians. I think they've done a phenomenal job so far. Andres Gimenez has been incredible. They locked him down long-term on a contract. They've got some really,
But that would be the equivalent to the Reds letting Ellie go. That's why I just... no. Look at you with that A's hat.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
it's the power of the hat, baby.
The Nationals. Where are the Nationals right now? They moved Juan Soto, and it saved their franchise because you weren't going to be able to re-sign him, and you got some elite pieces out of it. So moving star players when you aren't going to be able to sign them is a way to extend windows.
That one I don't know if I agree with. That one I don't know. We got to wait on that one a little bit, I think.
Oh, it doesn't apply to
go Francisco Lindor, go Mets, go Yankees.
I think not paying Juan Soto.
They offered him $400 million. He said no. Then you trade him instead of letting him walk for free. They offered him a bigger contract.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
That is one scenario that scares me to death about Ellie De La Cruz.
Well, I think
the Nationals offered him the biggest contract possible, and he said no.